Heyo, thanks for tuning into Functions 101 series again, guys. This is a Zoho CRM Community Learning Series initiative. It's me, Anu, again, and with me I have my friends here again on the panel to help us with the Q&A, and we're going to pick this up exactly from where we left off last time. If you haven't checked out our previous videos, please go to the page that you see below and you can find them there. Last time we learned the components of every function, like the name, the values to input, calculations to be done, and the output, what API names are, and how to find them and use them in the script. We then created a lead record and then played around with it for a while. We fetched records from a module and also got details of a particular record with its record ID. Finally, we searched for records with a criteria. We learned to update a record and also to perform bulk actions like bulk create and bulk update. So far we saw how the CRM talks within a module, like creates or updates a record within the same module. Now what happens if we have more than one module involved? Now that's what you're going to study today. To understand this connection, we must first know how to create this relationship. These inter-module relations are established with a field type called lookup field. A lookup field creates a one-to-many relationship with the records in different modules. To know where to add this field, think of it this way. If you want to group many contacts and link it to one account, you need the lookup field wherever the many factor is, in which case here it's the contacts module, right? The effect of a lookup field is like so. You have one account that connects to multiple contacts. In the contacts module, you'll have a field where you can connect it to the account. And in the accounts module, you will have a related list with the list of contacts that is connected to that account. For better understanding, let me just show you what I'm talking about. This is the accounts module and the contacts module. Now, if you go to the accounts module, you will see the related contacts on the left side, right? And if you were to create a contact, you can see the lookup field account name over there, right? So this is how contacts and accounts are connected. In the child module, in this case contacts, we will have the lookup field, and in the parent module, we will have the related list, okay? Now that you have a basic idea, let's take a real-time scenario to explain this. Zoho has many reselling partners across the globe who share a common interest in our product growth. They also help market these products to companies. Now, in this case, we have one reseller and multiple leads, right? The child module in this case is the leads because there's a multiple of them. And we basically want to create a field name or a lookup field in the child module called reseller name. We'll have a parent module. In this case, my parent module is not predefined, so I've created a custom module called resellers. And then I have a related list there called leads they brought in, right? Now I'm going to show you how to create this. Hope you all are logged in. Go to your setup on the top right. Go to customization. Go to modules and fields. Now we're first trying to create the reseller module. So let's create a new module called resellers. And let's just save this, give permission to everybody, and close. Now we've created a reseller module. Now we have to figure out where to put this lookup field or create the connection from. So to remember it better, you can think of it this way. The child module will contain the lookup field, right? So here the child module is the leads, and we're going to keep the lookup field name as reseller name. The parent module is the resellers that we just created, and we'll have a related list like leads they brought, okay? So let's go to the leads module where we will have this lookup field. And lookup fields can be found here below checkbox. Drag it into your layout and rename it as reseller name, right? Scroll down and choose your module, resellers, and I want it as leads they brought in or leads they brought, right? Say done and save and close. To see this working, let's create a reseller. Now I'm gonna call this reseller as Christine, let's say, Christine Wales. I'm just gonna save this. Now let's say this reseller brought in Thomas. You can either go to Thomas who's in the leads module, say Thomas, click on it, edit the record, scroll down and associate it to Christine. This is one way of doing it. Another way is to just remain in Christine's page here, and then on the left side in the related list title that says leads they brought, you'll have an assign option. Click on that and simply choose the leads that she's brought in. Save, and you can associate them this way as well. Okay, so this is the parent module, leads is a child module. The parent module will have a related list title, and the child module will have the actual lookup name over here. When there is a related list in play, we usually move on to the deluge functions like get related records and update related records. First off, we'll start with get, wherein we give a variable name equals zoho.crm dot get related records, the relation name, right? I'll show you where to find that. It's under the API section itself. The parent module's name and the record ID. To explain with an example, let's say each reseller has a discount ID that applies to every lead that he or she brings in. Let's call resellers the parent module and leads the child module. Now, won't it be great if the system automatically copies the discount ID from the reseller record and saves it into each individual lead database that you bring in? Now, let's see here. Go to setup, go to customization, go to modules and fields, scroll down, look for your reseller, go into the layout, and suppose we have a single line field like reseller ID for discount, right? Save. Suppose I have the same field in the leads module. Actually, let me have this here. Yep, reseller ID, save and close. Now the idea is whatever reseller ID I update here, that it copies to all the leads that are brought in by this reseller. So reseller ID for discount should ideally be filled up at the end of this custom function. Okay, so how would you go about writing something like that? Let's just go to setup, automation, actions, custom functions, configure function, write your own. Always choose the parent module that you're writing it for. This can be copy data, reseller ID, right? Now we would start off with, let's just see what the syntax is. So we're trying to get the related records, get related records. They're looking for a relation name, a parent module name, and an ID. Everything with a question mark is non-mandatory. So the relation name, we don't know what that is. Let's leave that there. The parent module name, here we know the parent is resellers, right? So that's parent module name. Was it resellers or reseller? Let's see. So I'm just gonna keep that resellers here, and we need the reseller ID. So let's just see, it's resellers, that's good. So we got that right. Now we need the reseller ID. Remember the URL ID? So we're gonna pick this up and I'm gonna put that here for now. Okay, so that's the ID, or that's the particular reseller that we want to work with, and we still haven't figured out what this stands for, the relation name. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to pull out every single lead from the related list, right? So for each element, let's say for each leads, because you can't have leads because it's already used for module name. So I'm just going to add an extra S. For every leads in this collection, the getting related connection, we have to first initialize or create a map and then tell the map what to do, which is dot or dot put. Yep. We have to take the API name of the fields. So we're trying to put reseller ID from leads module. Where is it? Yes. We're going to copy it into that field, and we're going to copy it from the same field in the resellers module. Okay, copy that, paste, save, and then we got to obviously update it. Zoho.crm.update record. We're updating the leads for every new lead that you get from this, right? So this variable name dot get their IDs. So for every ID, it's going to keep doing this. And the map, of course, is the one that we created, which is create a map. Now we still haven't figured what this is. Now relation name, if you go to the setup again, you'll have something like related list, right? Click on that, scroll down, and this is a relation name. Copy this, paste it over there. Obviously, don't forget the double quotes, save and execute. Aha, I haven't defined reseller ID. So I'm just going to copy that, go to edit arguments, copy it over here, and tell the system pick it up from this field, right? Now let's save and execute. They will ask you what reseller ID are you looking for. Let's just say Zilker 50 or something, right? If you save it, that's very good. Now let's go to the reseller, and if you go to the leads they brought in, you can see that the reseller ID has been updated. In this case, I manually entered Zilker 50. When I saved and executed the function, it asked me for the value, like Zilker 25. And if I save that, then all of this is going to be updated to Zilker 25. But if you notice, that value is not picked up from here yet, right? But we are able to update this part. So if you want the value to be picked up from here itself, Zilker 25, and then as soon as you give save, you want all of them to be automatically updated as Zilker 25. Now if you want to do something like that, go to your reseller. Let's try to create a couple more. Reseller 2 and reseller 3, and let's associate some leads to this. Lead 1, company 1, And you can also pick up a couple from here. All right. Now I'll also need to check out reseller 2. So let me go into that and assign a couple over here as well. Let's pick some from this section. Alrighty. So now we have 2 new resellers with 5 leads each. And we're going to apply this automatically. Like as soon as I go into reseller 2 and I update this value, all of these will also be updated, right? If you want to do it that way, go back to your function, set up actions, custom functions, go to the function, edit it, and instead of giving the value here as exactly which one it is, just say input reseller ID dot to long, right? Now this reseller ID, I got to edit the arguments and say that is the reseller ID. Save. Now I save this and I create a rule around it for the module resellers. Oh, copy discount ID, right? Now every time I update the field reseller ID for discount for all the resellers. I want this to work, right? Now let's go and try that out. Go to reseller 2, edit the reseller, put the reseller discount ID as discount ID 2, right? I hit save, and if you scroll down, you can see, wait, why is it that only some of them have this? Refresh, go down again, or just some UI glitch. All right, so we've applied that automatically. Now if you go back and if you want to do that for reseller 3, again simply make this into discount ID something, hit save, come down, just refresh this, and you should have that information copied down. Okay, the reason you have to refresh is because this is an Ajax editor. It doesn't actually trigger the function. You got to edit it this way if you don't want to refresh it as soon as you've entered the value. That way it'll come back to this page and update it here as well. So that's how you automate a function. I want to take the ID from inside Zoho, right? And I want Zoho to do that for me. So you can just add this over here and make sure to map the arguments, and you should be good to go as long as you have a workflow around it. We've now learned how to establish a connection and also how to get and update the related list. So what is update related records even for? If you've noticed, there are some modules that can be connected to each other with the help of just related lists, and there are no lookup fields involved. For example, let's go to the leads module. If you see here, we have campaigns, right? And if you go to the campaigns module, we have leads. Now, in both cases, there's no particular field inside the campaigns module asking it what are the leads involved, right? If you try to create a campaign, there's no lookup field here for leads. And if you try to create a lead, there's no lookup field for campaigns. And yet there are related lists for each of them that connect to each other. Now, such type of relationships, we can update the related list of each other with the help of update related records. All right. There are a couple more, like campaigns to leads. We have campaigns to contacts. And then we have products to leads, products to accounts, products to contacts, products to potential, and of course products to price books. All right. The syntax goes like this. You say variable name equals Zoho dot CRM dot update related records. You mention the child module's name and the ID, the parent module's name and the ID, and the data map. Yes, I know what you're thinking. There's no one-to-many relationship, so how do we know which one is the parent and which one is the child? I will explain that with examples. Now say you want to associate one campaign with one lead. Let's keep it simple. Let's create a campaign first, right? I'm going to create a campaign called Functions101, all right? Let's just say it's a conference for now. Say save. Now let me create a lead. Anu. So save. All right. Now, if I want to connect that lead to the campaign, you can obviously go here and connect it. But if you want to do it with Deluge, right? You go to setup, go to automation, go to actions, custom functions, configure function, write your own for add campaign, adding campaigns. This is for the leads module. All right. Now what you want to do here is first, let's just get that out of the system. The final response should be like Zoho dot CRM dot update related records, campaigns. Here is the child, and I want the campaign ID. All right. So let's just look for the campaign ID. Campaigns. This is the campaign ID. All right. Now the parent module is leads, and they're looking for the lead ID, which is this one, right? And they want a map. So let's go up and give them a map. Just say MP or something. Goes map. Just put the ID for the campaign, the same campaign ID, and we have a map. If I save and execute this, it would have updated the campaign with the lead. Go to the campaign, we have functions, go to functions, and we have the lead, right? So this is if you want to start off with one campaign, one lead. Now make it two campaigns and two leads, right? Let's up the game a little bit. So let me create one more campaign now. I'm gonna call it Community Meetup, all right? Also a conference. Now let me create another lead. Say Ashafan from Zoho. Alrighty, so now we have two campaigns and two leads. Let me just quickly go and dissociate this one so we don't get confused. Now, if this is the case, you want to go back to your functions and do a little bit of tweaking. Okay. Actually, let's leave that there. Now, we have the campaign list or the campaign names as the two campaigns, which is campaign number 1 and campaign number 2, which is functions. Take the ID. So I want to first pull out or tell the system these are the two campaigns that I want to associate with the two leads, right? Now I say for each, say, camp in this list, I want to create a map first and basically get this down here. We can again do the ID thing, mp.put ID, but in this case we're not going to mention just the one number. We have to iterate it, so the ID will be held in this, right? And that's it. So we've taken a variable name, campaign name, right? I mentioned that these are the two values that are supposed to be in it. Now then we run it by a loop and then take each ID and save it to this and then pass it over here. So it kind of puts the ID there. And we have a map. Everything else is pretty much the same. And yes, in this case, I have one more correction to make. If you've noticed, we have to change this because it's not just one campaign. So just gonna say that ID. Just to be 100% sure, I'll just say too long because I put it as a string. And I need a lead ID that I'm just gonna let the system decide. Right? Edit arguments. Just need to mention that here. And yep. Save and execute. Oopsies. Aha. Always with the semicolon. All right. Now this is for one lead. Okay. Okay. If you pass that, it's gonna say it's done. Refresh it. And you'll see the two campaigns over here. Started this, we said we're going to do this for more than one lead, which is both these leads that we've created today, right? So if you want to run it for more than one record, you have to associate a workflow rule. Let me just remove this and this. And let's just try to create the rule and try to trigger this. So we go to setup, automation, we create a rule for the leads module, associate campaigns. When I try to edit the lead, let's say, for the ones created today, and we have adding campaigns, and I save. All right, so I just got to quickly edit these leads. If you want to do something like that, just mass update some field, city to Zoho, and if you click on it, you're going to see that both the campaigns are associated, and if you go to the other record, you'll see the same thing, right? You can see the function has been working. All right, so that's how you do it for more than one lead. So now we've done it for one lead to one campaign, one lead to two campaigns, and two leads to two campaigns. Now let's make this a little bit more interesting, shall we? This time, let's say we imported a set of leads with the lead source as the campaign name. Now we need to make sure that the lead source and the campaign name are exactly the same because they're both character sensitive and case sensitive. And then, so once you associate the lead source, it automatically looks for the campaign name and associates it to that. Pretty cool, right? So let's just see here. Say these are the leads I imported today, right? I want to go and write this function. Setup, automation, actions, custom function, configure function, write your own, add new campaign. There shouldn't be a space for function name. Just copy the same thing because I'm too lazy to remove the spaces, but you can have spaces on the display name. This is for the lead module. Say next. Now, first thing we got to search for the campaign name. So campaign name equals Zoho.crm. Search records. We're looking at the campaigns module, and we need to mention the criteria. Criteria is enclosed within quotes and inside braces. We say campaign underscore name, which is the API name of that, equals, and then it's got to match up the lead source, right? Stat semicolon. For each element in this. So we got to loop this and look for every campaign name and run it by the lead source, right? So we're going to say for each, say camp in this campaign name list. Let's first pull out the ID. You will understand why in a bit. So you have to obviously update, and then that's where you need to use the related list. So update related record. Leads is our parent module. Here obviously we'll have lead ID, campaigns, campaign ID, and we need a map. So let's create a map. Now map dot, actually just, that should do map. Info update and save. Right. I need to define the arguments, which is lead ID is lead ID and source is lead source. Make sure this is exactly the same. Save. Perfect. Now let's try to run it by rule. For the leads module, add campaigns. Next. On edit, let's say. For all the leads, I want to trigger this function. Save. Right. Let's go to our new leads. Let's pick Christopher. Edit. And in lead source, okay, I have Functions101 already. I'm going to change it to Community Meetup, and you're going to see Community Meetup campaign being associated here, right? Similarly, if you want to mass update the campaign name, you can just mass update the lead source as functions. And if you check, you'll notice that they'll be associated with that. So you can even mass update and trigger the function for multiple records at a time. I need a break. I'm sure you guys need one too. You can fire your questions now and my panelists will take them. Okay, so I'm not sure how many of you guys know about the small gallery of custom functions we have inside our CRM already. Here are a few. So you can see there is a mass update of child contacts, roller potentials, and then a couple of them I've picked up from community because we also have a series called the community learning series where we put up functions. I'm just going to quickly walk you guys through the functions and what the code means. And once it makes sense, you can actually change the API names and make it work for the fields that you want it to work for, right? So first one is mass update of child contacts. Now before that, where do we find this gallery? Just go to your CRM setup, go to automation again, actions, custom function, configure function. But this time, instead of going to write your own, go to gallery. Scroll all the way down. Actually, you'll find a couple of them here already. I'm just going to talk about mass update of child contacts. So basically what this code does is it'll copy your account address details, yeah, to the contact address details. So if you see here, let's just go to an account. Let's just create a new account. And let's just create a new contact over here. So we can see those fields. So basically what I want to do is I want to copy the billing street from the accounts module to the mailing street of the contact module, right? Similarly, all the billing stuff goes to all the mailing stuff, and the shipping fields go to the other fields in contacts, okay? So that's what the code does as well. Yeah, so the billing goes to mailing and the shipping goes to other, right? All you have to do is just say done and say configure and select the module as accounts. They pretty much even have instructions here. So it'll say select the module as accounts. You can do that, say account ID and save. And of course, we need to remember that custom functions do need a workflow to work around it. So we are going to associate it to a workflow as well. We're going to have to associate it to a workflow as well. Next up, we're going to learn is the roll-up potential amounts to account. Now, that particular function is pretty interesting because what it does for you is it'll take the total revenue out of all the deals connected to your account. And if you have a custom field in the accounts module that says, you know, like total revenue or something, you can copy or basically add all the deal values and copy it onto that field in the accounts module. So this is what that particular code does. So you can see here, we're going to get the related records, of course. And then for every time it's one, of course, we don't want to calculate all the deals, only the deals that are one, we want it to go and sit in the accounts module. And they've taken the field name here. So you can replace that with whatever field name you've created in the accounts module. Replace that API name over here, and you should be pretty much good to go. And you can use this to add up all the deal amounts and put it in the accounts module again. Then we also have a couple of other functions that I want to talk about, which are available in the Zoho Community page. So if you go to community.zoho.com and you go to forms, on the CRM side of things, if you scroll down, you'll see functions. Click on that. And you'll get a list of functions. So this is our function series. We try to release a couple of functions that are frequently asked by customers here. So it's available to everybody in the community. So I've picked up a few to talk about even on these. So the first one I want to talk about is how to auto update multiple fields in a record. So if you remember in the previous webinar, we discussed an example of copying the number field, which is the phone number field, to the mobile field. Now this is the same thing, but for a couple of other fields. So if you want to even, take a value like this is for expected revenue. So if you want the information from expected revenue to sit on amount, you can use this code, or you just want to copy field data within a module from one field to another, you can use this. Just make sure the API names are correct and you've mapped the arguments correctly. The next one is, this is a pretty interesting one because creating an event, there are a couple of other things that you want to keep in mind, right? So in the events module, let me first take you to the module itself. So if you see in the activities events module, uh, there's a related to, and then as soon as you click lead, you notice that lead pops up and there is no account or contact, because obviously when there's a lead, there's still no account or contact, and only after you convert them, all of these come into play. So, but once you choose a contact, you'll see account has popped up over here, right? So there are a couple of cases that you want to think about. And as far as the API names are concerned, if you go to developer space and APIs, if you go to the API names, you'll see a who ID and a what ID. So you can just go here and make sure those have been mapped correctly. So the contact name goes by who ID, API name, and the related to field goes by the what ID, right? So you just want to make sure the API names are correct. And let's take a look at the code. So here we're going to obviously get the deals, right, that you want to create this event for. And what you're going to do is this code will automatically create an event from the deal with the start time as the deal's delivery date time. So there's a field in the deal module called delivery date time. As soon as you put in a value for delivery date time, it's going to create an event with the start time as that exact date and time and the end time as 1 hour from the start time, right? So that's what this part of the code pretty much does. And then we have to basically tell the system what the title is and everything, all the parameters that is needed to create this event record. So we will basically define all of that here. All right, and you'll see there's this particular one which will not be mentioned in the API names. So what this is if you are going to mention a contact name and you get a separate option like account or deal. What I mean by that is in the activities module, in the event section, if you go to the related to and if you're choosing contact, and here if you're choosing an account or a deal, right, you have to mention the what ID as the deal ID and which module it points to, right? So this will only come into picture when that additional option pops up. So that is something you want to keep in mind here. Everything else is pretty simple. You're just going to create that particular event. All right. The next function I want to discuss about is the round robin assignment of leads to users in your organization. So if you scroll down, you can see the business scenario here. Um, Scrolling further down. So let me just decipher this code with you. So the first reference record details, this is just a variable name. You can give whatever you want. So what they've done here is they've taken one lead and used that as a reference lead, right? And from there, we're going to say who the next owner is. So that's what they've done here. We've taken up one lead and then we're going to find the owner of that first reference record. So that's saved under the variable first owner. So who's the owner of this record? We've taken that variable out as well. Then what we're doing is if the first owner equals the user ID. Now we know that leads have a lead ID. Now where would you find a user ID, right? So if you go to leads, you know the lead ID is going to be found in the URL. Similarly, if you go to setup, go to users, click on a user's name, you'll get a user ID value over here. It will be unique for each user, of course. Now you got to take the user ID from the URL and you got to use them over here. So you'll keep the first owner equals as one user ID and then up owner as the next user ID, right? This way you can keep creating the loop. If the first owner is user A, then update it as user B. Then if the first owner is user B, then update as user C. If the first owner is user C, then you can go back to update it as user A if you have three people or three users involved. The rest of the code is pretty basic. You're going to update the lead and define whatever is required for us to complete this syntax, like the map and everything. All right. Don't forget to associate a workflow because functions don't work on their own. They need a workflow to trigger it. And also don't forget to edit your arguments and make sure you always enter the arguments that are required for this function to work, right? So yes, I guess that brings us to the end of today's session. If you want to check out more functions, you can just go to community.zoho.com, go to the forum section, and you will see Zoho CRM. There you go. If you just scroll down, you'll see functions. Just click on that and you'll get a list of functions. So I think this is the latest one we've put up, 52nd. So we have 52 functions already available. You can just take a look and see if something works for you, but with different fields. Just take the functions, replace the API names, and make sure you enter the arguments correctly and associate the workflow. You should be good to go, right? This is Anu again. Thank you all so much for watching all the 4 videos in the hashtag Functions101 series. Stay tuned to our announcements on community.zoho.com and we'll let you know when we're planning to release the next set for the same Functions 101. Now, what to expect then is basically you learn how to configure buttons and the other type of functions which is found under setup developer space functions, how to basically use that section, how to integrate CRM with other Zoho apps, and finally, how the CRM talks to third-party applications. I'll see you all soon. Until then, have a good one.